everybody, it's Leero from Leero Gaming, and today I'm bringing you my very first guide for Last Epoch. It is a game that's been in early development for a while now on Steam. It's a great little ARPG that I've been very addicted to, especially since the release of the Druid remake. So this is the first of my beginner guides. This one in particular is around a Beastmaster, which is a Druid that focuses on the powers of his pets. It's really fun, and it is quite powerful. Now, this is a beginner guide. I will be covering progress from level 1 to 75. The reason 75 is chosen is that roughly towards the end of level 75, you will be able to cap out and max out your skills. And I'll explain what that means in the video. Now, in this video, as with all my guides, you're going to see timestamps below, so you can jump around to whatever you want to find out about. We're going to be looking at the passives, about the skills, and I'm also going to go over some of the gear, or rather the type of gear you want to be looking for. Because this is a beginner guide, I'm going to assume people that use this guide are probably just starting out. They're not going to have a ton of tunes created where they can just throw over a ton of gear that's optimized. So this is gear that I found by myself. I didn't transfer from other characters. So you're going to see on my character, he's not optimized by any means, but he's still quite powerful and can clear all the content that I've been playing with him so far. So with that being said, so let's go ahead and jump in and take a look at my character here, Ranulf, a level 75 Beastmaster, and see how I put him together. Alright guys, we're going to start with the passive trees, and as with all builds, you're going to have to start with your base class. Now, I want to point out that we will only be using roughly 20 points in the base class for this build, but if you're just starting out, I want to point out that you probably will not unlock your specialty classes of Beastmaster, Druid, or Shaman until roughly level 27 or 28. So you're going to have quite a few more points in here when you're first leveling up. So what you're going to want to do is find any NPC in any of the cities that has one of these brains on him. You can talk to him and respec those points for a nominal fee. So that's going to be an important thing to note. Now, when it comes to the Primalist, the base skill, we're going to start with Primal Strength. This is going to increase your strength and health regeneration. Now, it's very important to note that strength is going to be critical, even though we are focusing on our pets. As you'll notice here, if you hold Alt while mousing over the node, it will explain to you how the strength not only is going to increase your armor, which is going to be important for defense, but it's also going to help abilities such as Swipe, which is going to be your primary attack, and also your Summon Wolf and other pets, as you're going to see a little bit later. So this is a critical stat, and it gives you much more than, just muscles, as you might think from other games. So we will make sure to put 8 out of 8 in this. Now, I do want to point out that on my playthrough, I went straight for Primal Medicine. So this is going to give you a flat increase to damage to your minions. And it's also going to make it that whenever you heal your potions, you heal your pets as well, which can be helpful when you level up. However, there is an alternative. So one of the kind of problems this build can have if you don't gear up correctly is an issue with resistances. So you can, instead, if you want, put up to 6 points into natural attunement, which is going to give you 6 times 3, so 18 lightning resistance and 18 cold resistance that can help you work towards that 75% cap of your resistances. So this is not bad. It will also help you with attunement. You're not going to be using that much attunement in this build, but mana isn't bad because you actually are going to be using a lot of mana in this build because you're going to be spamming different pet abilities, and those are actually quite expensive when it comes to mana. So you can't go wrong. You could get 6 here or 6 here or any combination. It's kind of up to you. I just went for full DPS, but in retrospect, I almost wish I went with this because then I wouldn't have to get as much gear leading into the resistances. And then we're going to go into Survival of the Pack, which is amazing. This is not only going to increase your melee damage, which is actually the lesser of importance, but it's also going to give your pets 30% melee damage, and then both you and your pets are going to leech 3% of your melee damage for health. So this is a really good way for helping to start your survivability. And that's all we're going to do in the Primalist, and then we are going to go to the Beastmaster Mastered tree. Now, as mentioned before, strength is king for this build. So Ursine strength is going to be huge. Not only are you going to get an extra 8 strength, but you're going to lower your damage taken by an extra 16%. So this is really good. and quite helpful for helping with that survivability overall. And it's one of the few abilities that are going to be stacking here. We're going to have a couple of them, as you're going to see in a second, but this one is always on, which is important. Next, we're going to be dipping in a couple of points. So we're going to get 1 point into savagery. And again, while it'd be nice to get more of this, we do have a limited amount of points to put in by level 75. So we just want to put 1 point so that we can unlock for higher levels access to lamprey teeth and also to ambush. Now, we are then going to go ahead and put in 1 point into ambush. So this is an ability that's going to grant you aspect of the shark, which is really, really nice, and it's going to give you a big boost to your melee attack and some to attack speed. Now, you can pump more points into it to get this boost to your next attack, but because this only applies for one attack every 5 seconds or so, it's not really worth it in my opinion. Instead, we're going to be putting points into Boar Heart. So this is a really very important defensive ability. So when you get hit by a melee attack, you're going to reduce your damage by 15% baseline. Lasts for 4 seconds. There's a 2-second cooldown. It lasts 4 seconds because we put 4 points into it. That's so we can unlock Porcine Constitution, which basically ups it by an additional 15%. So it's now all of a sudden a 30% damage reduction, and that's really, really huge because as you'll notice here, this is a buff to reduce all damage. So elemental, non-elemental, etc. And you also get a little boost to health regeneration, which is never too bad. After that, we're going to max out lamprey teeth. This is really nice because, again, we want to be able to make sure that we can leech through our DPS, especially our pets. We want to make sure that they stay alive as much as possible because they're going to be doing the majority of your damage. So again, when you put 6 points, you're going to heal 9% percentage of your melee damage. They're going to do the same, and also increases their minion health leech by 120%. So this is just going to help them basically multiply how much you leech when you combine all of your leech effects that you have across the passive skill trees and some of the abilities from your actual active skills. After that, we're going to go ahead and put 1 point in Rending Maw. And again, this is going to make it so that when you have aspect of the shark, it's going to grant you a 20% chance to armor shred. Again, at higher levels, you might be able to put more points into it, but again, you're going to see so many good buffs here that it's going to be hard to kind of spread it out, especially when trying to balance base DPS and then some of the defensive effects. After that, it's worth putting 1 point into Hunters of the Deep. And so this is going to basically increase the aspect of the shark duration by an extra 15%. But what's more important is it makes it so that companions gain the aspect of the shark. That's the main reason we get this. So now this effect helps both you and your pets, and that's nice. We want to do anything we can to buff the pets when it comes to DPS. Now I want to point out we are completely ignoring the whole bleed line at the top and also the poison line. That's not what we're going to be leaning into. This is going to be all about melee, just physical damage of this build. So you notice we ignore all that. Now, next, we're going to go ahead and put 5 points into Primal Strength. Again, this is going to give you 5 plus 5 strength, but now it lets you proc your aspect of the board. That's a defensive ability, not just on defense, but also on offense when you are hitting. So this is really, really helpful to kind of keep that up for you. Do note that Axe and Claw, I do not get at this point. We will come back to this towards the end. So I don't pick these up because I am trying to get some of these buffs procced. And I also found that I needed some defensive buffs here. So we'll come back to this. If you have, better gear and you're kicking butt, you can always get this a little earlier. But I held off on this for a little bit. Instead, I put 1 point into Life in the Wild. So it only adds +1 vitality and 10 endurance threshold, but most importantly, it makes it that your endurance also applies to your companions. And that's important because your endurance reduces the damage you take below your endurance threshold. And especially as you gear up later on, you can make it so this is an additional form of damage reduction. It starts with 20% endurance threshold, and you can get it higher and higher. So when it means a 20% endurance threshold, it just means when you're below 20% health, which isn't that great, you can get damage reduction, but eventually you can get it higher. As it says here in the tooltip, you can get as high as 60% as you gear up. After that, we're going to go ahead and put a point into Circle of Life. So this is going to give you a chance to proc aspect of the shark whenever you kill an enemy. But you'll notice that I will be putting 3 points into it in just a second, because we are going to put 1 point into Dragon Slayer. This is important because now it says the on-kill effect of Circle of Life also has an equal chance to trigger when you hit a rare or boss enemy. And because we mainly care about this buff when fighting elites, this is huge. Therefore, I have so far put in 3 out of 5. That gives us 15% chance on hit against elites or bosses. That's pretty decent. Obviously, you could get up to 5 in here to do up to 25%. And that's something you're going to want to do eventually as well. You can kind of choose to buff that up at any point whenever you feel confident. So this is something you will want to buff up. You also get some health on kill, but that's minuscule compared to how much you're going to be leeching. You're also going to get Cry of the Lynx. This is also very important because it says when you use a companion ability, you and your companions get Aspect of the Link, and it's going to grant you additional critical strike chance, increased stun chance, and it's going to scale with points of how long it lasts for and also how much it increases your critical strike chance overall. So I put 3 points into it, and that's the minimum amount to unlock Serrated Claws a little bit later. Now, you'll notice I put in Avian Shelter here, and I put actually all 10 points of this because I was in my current leveling for this character. I just struggled to get physical resistance up. And since physical attacks are so common, you start feeling kind of squishy. So what's nice about this is this, for every point, not only buffs your physical resistance, but also for your pets. And 40% is no joke, since 75% is the cap. Endurance threshold is a nice icing on the cake. Now, if you're feeling really tanky, this is where you could, for example, go 8 out of 10 and hit 5 out of 5 on Circle of Life if you like, for more DPS, okay? Now, after that, you're going to want to actually get Force of Nature. And honestly, I believe when I leveled it up, I actually got this first. And then I went to Avian Shelter. So as soon as you can get this, because it's going to give you 1 extra companion, which makes ultimate sense. So as soon as this pops up, just pick this up. It's a no-brainer. And then you're going to want to put 1 point into Aspect of the Shark, or rather Ocean Maw, which is going to buff Ocean of the Shark. And it's going to make it more effective, and it's going to increase the duration. Now, this is also something at higher levels I would like to max out, because this is Aspect of the Shark, again, is a really, really nice buff. It's a flat melee damage buff. And because all your damage is going to be melee damage for you and your pets, this is really, really nice. Now, as mentioned before, we're going to pick up Serrated Claws, 1 point in here. And that's going to lead to getting 1 point in Critical Bite. This is nice because your pets are going to start criticalling a lot. The annoying thing is this game, as far as I know, without any modifications, you can't see how much your pets hit for. You can have it show the damage that you do on screen, but I haven't been able to see the pets. But just based off the calculations, they should be critting a good amount. So this is just another way to heal up off of crits. And even for 1.3% healing is really nice, because obviously crits are going to hit for a lot. So 3% of that is going to be very, very helpful. And then you're going to max out Ancient Might. This is huge. Again, strength plus 10. And then, very important, you're going to see, this may not seem like a lot, but anytime you see these melee physical damage plus 10, a minion melee physical damage, and you say, wow, that seems like a small number. But it's really not, because this is your baseline damage. And all the multipliers, so all these hundreds of percentages to damage, to melee, are going to go on top of that. So this is actually a big deal. And this is also why with the last 4 points, so from level 71 to 75, I went back and I've been stacking Axe and Claw, because you get plus 2 melee physical damage to yourself, but more importantly to all of your minions. And you're going to have a lot of minions. So this is the first thing I will max out. And as you go above 75, again, I would probably recommend maxing out Circle of Life here. And then kind of pick your choices. Ocean Maw is really good to go. And then just pick your favorite DPS boost as you go after that. All right, now we're going to go ahead and take a look at our abilities. I want to point out this is a true pet build. So you're going to notice right off the bat, I don't have min-max gear yet, but I already have 6 pets. 4 of the wolves, and then 1 raptor and 1 Sabertooth. So let's take a look at the skills and how I build those out. So we're going to start with the wolf, and I'm going to have that at the very, very beginning. So what's nice about this ability is that it's going to provide a really, really nice buff to you and all your pets. So where I like to start is I like to go up here into Savage Hunter. We're going to get 2 nodes just as a prerequisite for the other nodes to increase the damage of your wolves. And again, remember, we're going to have a lot of wolves at 4 at my current level. So this is going to be really providing, 120% damage boost overall. We're going to put 1 in Victory Howl. We're not relying on this to proc. What we really care about is this right here, Snarl. And again, what we care about is this buff at the bottom. Howl increased melee damage is 100%. So for only 2 points committed. And Howl, let's take a look at Howl. What it does is basically it grants Frenzy and a 50% increased damage for 3 seconds. Now this is all damage. And then with that buff, you're going to get an additional 150% melee damage. So really, for all intents and purposes, this is a 150% increase to damage to you and all your pets that are around. And if you're worried about or want to know what Frenzy is, it increases 20% attack speed and cast speed. So for you and your pets, you just attack faster. So this is just a huge amount of DPS. And I'll show you in a second how we make sure that everything gets buffed by this. Now after this, it's actually very, very simple. I like to go down here. We're going to get 2 points to Lupine Endurance. Just a prerequisite, gives them some health. 2 points in Wolven Recovery. Again, health regen, but it's a prereq. We don't really care about this. 1 point in Earthborn, which is a nice little buff and physical health leech as well. But we really care about going here. This is going to give you +1 maximum wolf pet and 1 maximum extra companion. This for 1 point is amazing. Then we're going to turn around and go around here. Initially, we're going to put 4 points onto the hunt. 40% attack speed and move speed. Nothing to joke about. This is amazing. Then we're going to do 1 point in Howl of Might initially. And so this is going to make it so that you're going to get extra damage, a little dodge. But really, what's nice about this, it gets tripled when you howl. And you're going to be howling a lot. So this will be eventually, when you get 2 out of 4 in a little bit, going to be 60% damage and 60% dodge, which is nice. And then you want to get safety in numbers. This is going to make it so you can summon wolves up to your maximum number of companions. You're going to have 2 other pets, and basically you just want to, with any leftover capacity, you want to have wolves. They're going to be just like mass DPS. They're not going to be nearly as damaging as your other 2 pets, as you'll see, but they make up in numbers. Now, of your last couple points, what I like to do is I like to put 1 point into Restlessness. It makes it so that your pets can't be stunned. This can mean a difference between them dying or not. Sometimes bosses especially will AoE stun. And so when they're stunned, they're taking damage and they can't damage and leech to keep themselves alive. So this is very, very potent. And then you should have 2 more points left. Then what I like to do is I like to go ahead and put 1 point in here. This is how I got 2 out of 4. And 1 more in on the hunt to kind of maximize the DPS options here for physical damage. And that's how we build that up. Now next we're going to go with Swipe. And Swipe is really here for the most part to kind of help you stay alive. You're going to do a modest amount of DPS, but you're not the main DPS dealer here. So you're going to notice we're going to be picking up some support nodes, and we're not going to be picking up some of the high DPS nodes that you normally build. So how do I like to start this? So the way that I like to start with this actually is I like to go 2 points into Way of the Hunt. Main thing here, you're going to get an extra 4% health leech. And then I go 4 out of 4 on Wengarian Reach, because it's going to increase your area by 100%. The idea of this is you just want to hit as many things as possible so you get maximized with your leech. You want to apply your potential rend, potential bleed to as many things as possible. So this, you really can't go wrong with this. An extra 20% base damage isn't bad. After that, what I like to do is I like to go down here. And so you're going to pick up 2 points in Blood Beast. And again, it's a prerequisite to move on. So bleed chance 40%. Now we're not doing a bleed build, but this doesn't hurt. 1 point in rending, 25% chance to shred. Again, not a huge deal. But what we care about is this duality of nature. So whenever you basically attack, you're going to be getting mana back. This is important. Now early on, when you only have 1 pet, maybe 2 pets, it's not quite as big of a deal. But once you have all 3 pets going and want to use all their abilities, you're going to be extremely mana starved, especially since you're not going to have a lot of attunement and you're not going to be stacking mana gear. So this is going to make it so that you're not waiting on cooldowns and then saying, oh, I have cooldowns ready, but I don't have the mana for it. Now note that I only put 2 out of 3. I found that 2 out of 3 was just fine. 1, I would sometimes be waiting on getting mana when the cooldowns are ready, and I didn't like that. 2 was perfect. If you get 3, which will give you 9 mana gain per hit, it's going to be overkill. Now, there's a special warning. Whatever you do in this build, do not get Claws of the Bear and Natural Cadence, because this 2-second cooldown will murder this whole build. Because while it gives you nice bonuses, during that downtime, when the ability's on cooldown, you're no longer leeching health. You're no longer leeching mana for those seconds. You're basically leeching once and not leeching in 2 seconds. Your attack speed will be so high once your buffs start going that you're going to be attacking numerous times a second. So this can be a ton of mana you're missing out on. So whatever you do, again, do ignore these nodes here, even though some other builds may use them. Now at this point, you can go one of 2 ways. You can go and buff your own DPS a little bit, or you can pit stop and give yourself some extra minions to help you with the fight. I originally went with boost my DPS a little bit so I can help out my pets a little bit more. If you do that, you're going to go ahead and get, I initially got 2 Aspects of the Panther, which will give you 4 stacks of Aspect of the Panther potentially, and potentially 40% global damage increase. 1 point in Feline Hunter, which is nice global attack speed and global cast speed. And then 2 points to Maul, which gives you an extra 40% global attack. I ignored these because we don't have the points for them, unfortunately. And again, you're not doing most of the damage here. Now, either before you get this bottom part or right after, get 3 out of 3 Cloud of Stone. This will give you a 30% chance whenever you attack to summon Cloud Totem. Now, notice this Cloud Totem does scale with your minion stats and also attunement. You're not going to have much attunement, but they will be a nice distraction, and they can do a decent amount of low DPS to the trash around you, especially as you're going to be jumping on around. They can, again, finish off some stragglers, or, again, helps get attention off of you in kind of situations where maybe you're kind of like trying to dodge a bunch of monsters that may be really tough at high levels. So this can help you with your survivability. All right, next we have Fury Leap, and this is actually the most important skill for this build. It's going to help you bring everything together. And in this build, we are using it 100% to help support your pets. So right off the bat, you're going to go down here and we're going to get 5 out of 5 Warrior's Entrance. So when you land, you and your minions deal an increased damage, and this is going to be 100% global damage for 3 seconds. This is nuts. Then what you're going to do is you're going to put 1 point in Pack Leader. Your Wolf, Sabertooth, and Raptor companions leap with you. This is super important. In fact, you're going to pick this up as soon as you get 3 out of 5 and then finish that off. And you're going to see exactly why. This is going to be so important to making sure you stack all the buffs together. And it's also why we chose the Wolves, Sabertooths, and Raptors as our pets, because we can control our pets much better this way. And after that, we're going to get Rage. So when you land, you're going to also get an extra 30% global attack and cast speed. So now you're getting 100% damage, 30% attack speed. You're attacking faster and harder. Don't forget, everybody, all your pets, and you have all this leech. You're healing much, much quicker as well. This is creating quite a bit of a sawmill, as you probably saw in the intro part of the video. After that, we're going to go and get Panther Strike. So this is going to increase the damage of the jump a little bit, but what we mainly care about is the cooldown recovery, so you can jump more often. This is really, really big. And then we're going to go and get 3 points into Ambush Predator. So this is not going to be a big damage hitter for us, this jump, but we do need 3 points as a prerequisite, in my opinion. So you're going to put 3 points into here, do 90% more damage when you jump on something. That's cool. And you're going to get 1 point into Gravity, which is going to pull in enemies, which is helpful because you want everything clumped up for your attacks as well as your pet attacks. And after that, I went and I did 4 out of 4 into Rise. Now, why did I use Rise? Well, what's basically going to happen, I'm going to show you right now. When you jump around, where you leave, they will auto-spawn 3 vines. And basically, the way you're going to be able to jump, you're going to be able to keep 6 of them up, as you can see up here, right? Now, the reason they're here is distractions, because sometimes what's going to happen is you're going to be in a tough fight. You're going to have elites after you or the boss after you, and you want to leap away to safety. And these will sometimes act as a distraction where the boss or the monsters that are trying to kill you will attack them instead of chasing you. That could give you just enough time to get in position, to heal, to attack a less deadly group of enemies, to get some healing off, etc. So it's a defensive mechanism to kind of help protect yourself. There is an element where you could theoretically do 3 out of 4 or make some sacrifices and get this one Poisonous Thicket where you get them where they land as well. But again, there's nothing I could see here that I would want to sacrifice, honestly, to give that up. So it's really a tale of not having enough points. If you get gear that gives you plus points to Fury, definitely put them into here so that you can have more of these summoned vines to help you tank and help you stay alive. All right, next you're going to have your Raptor. And this Raptor, man, is he a beast as far as killing things. He's actually really, really fun. And he's going to provide an amazing synergy with your wolves. An actually mandatory synergy that makes a huge difference. So right when you start off, you're going to go into Iridescent Plumage. And you got to put 5 out of 5 as a prerequisite. Now, nothing wrong with this. Plus 400 dodge and 40% elemental resistance. That's huge. That's 40 to electric, fire, and ice resistance. That's amazing. And don't forget, from the passive tree, he'll also have 40% physical resistance. But what really we are here for is this brilliant display. So your Raptor automatically reduces the cooldown of your other companion's activatable abilities by 3 seconds every 8 seconds. What this means is your wolf's ability that is super buff, that will buff everybody's DPS, you can get that up more often. That is its weight worth in gold, even if this node wasn't so good defensively as well. So you get this right off the bat, and it's the main reason why we have the Raptor here. Now next, we are going to go ahead and go to Vicious Rampage. It has an ability that we're going to go over in just a bit when we talk about the synergies that buffs itself. So it's going to basically let you do more damage. And you're going to go put 2 points into it as a prerequisite. Then we're going to go ahead and put 2 points into Predator. And this is going to increase your critical strike chance by, it's going to be 40% per point. Now, I have 3 out of 4 here. That's where I put my final point. You can choose to put that final point in here or in here. This will increase your rampage by 25%. This will increase your crit strike chance. If your crit basically chance is starting to get really high there and consistently, this can really help out. If you increase your base crit chance enough, that extra multiplier to the critical strike chance can have a really big impact on your DPS. But early game, you could even go a Vicious Rampage. Some people like that guaranteed damage as well. So that's kind of up to you. And then you have Disability, which is amazing. Cornered. So damage increases for each percentage of your missing health, 2% plus. And if you had Alt, it'll explain. If in theory you were able to get 1% health, which you won't, you'll get 198% damage that you're going to do. Now, you'll reach so much health. Initially, this is a little difficult to get because you'll be at full health most of the time, but this helps. Broken Tooth. So for 1 point, you get amazing buff. Melee attack speed increased by 20%. That is huge, but it has a downside. So 10% chance on hit, and this guy's going to attack a lot, to lose 10% health. A lot of people may be scared off by this. Don't be. This is huge. You want this to proc. This is how your Raptor takes damage most of the time, honestly. So when this does go off, that even 10% missing health for maybe the next hit, because of this, is an extra 20% damage. And if this goes off a couple of times, drops your health a little bit, it can give you nice bursts of DPS. And for basically 1 point, it's a no-brainer. Now to finish up, we're going to go down here, and this is actually also very important. 5 points to Razor Wings, plus 15 melee physical damage. As I explained earlier in the passive tree, this plus 15 damage, it may not seem like a big number, but this is to base damage. All the multipliers, all the percentages you'll see are going to be applied to these numbers. So this is actually no joke. We go 5 out of 5 so we can get this. I love this. Taste for Flesh. Your Raptor gains more damage for 10 seconds when it kills an enemy. 10 per stack. Now you're going to have a lot of pets. So you can't really tell how often this procs because other pets may get the kill shots or you may get the kill shots. But the reality is, he attacks so fast and does so much damage that he'll get a lot of kills. And for 1 point, that it's going to give you between 10 and any number of percentages here is going to be huge. So even if you proc 2 or 3 times, 20 to 30% overall damage just for 1 point is killer. So this is nice and clean. And finally, we have Summon Sabertooth. Now, this works because of something that I wasn't sure about. It's about this heavy paws I'll talk about in just a second. Because the heavy paw effect I thought would break this and this build, but it did not. So hang tight for a second. Because what we're going to actually start is going to start down here. We're going to go and put 1 point into gouging, claws, bleed chance plus 33%. That's great. This pet actually will bleed things a decent amount, but we use it as a prerequisite, right? And then you're going to go 5 into Fury Swipe, increases attack speed by 50%. This thing is going to attack like crazy attack speed-wise. Especially, don't forget, you're going to get Fury, so it's going to get an extra 20%. So he'll be running with like 70% attack speed most of the time bonus. And then you're going to get this Frenzy. This is bonkers. So you're going to get an extra 50%. So again, apologies, you're going to get 50. You're going to get 100% attack speed plus 20% from the Wolf buff. That's 120% attack speed. You're going to have an extra 50% chance to bleed. Yes, you'll take 33% more damage, but you're going to be doing so much damage with this thing. It's going to leech so much that unless it gets like one shot by something, which shouldn't happen because you'll have a bunch of resistances as well, this thing is just going to stay alive. This is worth its weight in gold and then some. The fact that 50% for 1 point attack speed, no other single point on any trait I've seen is this powerful for a melee attack pet. Now, this was the controversy in my opinion. Heavy Paws. I looked at this and this was mandatory for this build. If I wanted to build it out, and I said, oh no, cannot leap. So why is this important? This is important because you need to be able to leap with all the pets. Fortunately, this only negates the natural leap, not the leap that is procced here. So this pack leader, companions leap with you when you leap. It still does that, as you'll see in a second. So this is perfectly fine. This just increases your damage by 40% again for 1 point. I mean, look at this. For 2 points right here, 50% attack speed, 40% melee damage. This is already getting bonkers, but it gets better. So as you move on, you're going to get 3 points into Maul for an extra 30% base damage. 5 out of 5 into Keen Sense, increases crit chance by 150%, which is nice. And then we put the rest of the points into actually buffing your crit damage, because again, you should be critting a decent amount, and an extra 80% multiplier. So this thing is going to be hitting a beast. Now let's go ahead and take a look how this all synergizes in practice. So I wanted to show you guys how this works and how you basically run this. So here are pets, and all you're going to basically do is you're going to jump, and notice when I jump, they jump with me. This is important because when they land, you're all together, and immediately you're going to hit Howl. The only downside to Howl is that it has a limited range, so if your pets for whatever were fighting other things and they didn't jump with you, not everything would be buffed by it. But instead, you do this and everything gets buffed, including those vines if they had stayed alive. And then as soon as you land and you buff that, then you're going to want to do Rampage. Now Rampage is very, very bonkers. It only affects the Raptor, but it's going to give it a 40% increased attack speed, cast speed, and movement speed, and damage, and size. Now I don't know how the size calculates into anything. I wasn't able to find a tooltip about it. If anybody that watches the videos can tell me what the benefit of increased sizes, other than maybe you get more likely to get attacked, I don't know, or it just looks cool, do let me know. Would love to hear it if it actually helps with any DPS. But the point is here that your Raptor is already going to be under the effect of Howl, and we discussed how powerful that is, but now it's going to do more damage, faster attack for 5 seconds. During this period, this thing is going to go on a killing spree, and if you looked at our upgrades to the Raptor, the more it kills, the more powerful it gets. It gets absolutely nasty. Now, you finally do have Flurry Swipe for the Sabertooth. I find this the most underwhelming kind of overall ability because you have to be careful. When you kind of cast it, he kind of does in this space. So if he's in the wrong spot, it will basically be useless or you'll use it on something weak. And it costs 35 mana, so it's no joke. So what you want to do instead is make sure you only cast this more often than not if you're engaged with like an elite that's not getting one shot. So the way this will kind of look is like this. We jump in, buff, buff, boom. And this entire time you're kind of doing your attacks. And rinse and repeat. So jump again. One thing will be off cooldown. Follow enemies, jump again. Buff. Simple as that. Obviously, I ran out of mana. This is why you needed that leech off the swipe. But as long as you have that, you'll be good. Alright, finally, let's talk about gear. And again, This is meant for kind of beginners. I don't have Minimax gear or anything like that, but I want to go over some of the gear you can get relatively easy. Probably the easiest awesome weapon for this build that you'll likely get, because it seems really, really common, is the Hammer of the Laurent. Get this, it scales per level when it comes to melee physical damage every time you level up. It's got a nice base increased melee damage. So this was my go-to for the first, I think, 30 or 40 levels. I can also use Stormbreaker once you get 35. Now, it's obviously we're not going for lightning damage in this build, but what's nice about this is it gives you a ton of mana, and also gives you some mana regen and lightning resistances based off, as you can see, the effects here, which is really, really good because you're going to be mana starved early levels potentially. If you have that issue, well, this can kind of help you out with that, with spamming all your abilities. Again, it's by no means perfect, but it's a decent weapon. And then once you get into the 40s, I love this weapon until I replaced it with some of my higher level gear. The Last Laugh is amazing, increases strength, physical damage. It's got, as you can see, lots of different effects here. So it also can shred the armor of enemies, so it can help increase the damage that your pets do by shredding the armor. So this is really good for weapons as well. There is also a pretty common, I think it's a common ring because I've gone a couple times, is the Arboreal Circuit. Main thing here, it gives 521 minor minion armor, so it makes all your minions much, much tougher. Also lets you proc illusionary trees, so it's okay. It's one hit, it's not bad, and it makes you and your minions move faster. Mainly, I use this as a filler to really buff up my pets to make sure they didn't die. A nice little beginner glove that I liked is the Avarice, because this helps increase your leech, especially if you combo it with Stormbreaker. You're going to do some extra elemental damage. You're going to get decent leech from it. I mainly used it as an early game way of having elemental resistance and increasing my leech. Again, could you roll yellow gear for it to get better and, forge? Yeah, but I didn't bother with it. There's also a nice little set that I really like for this. It's basically the Last Lament set, I guess it's called. So the Last Bear's Lament, rather. And so the main thing here is you have the helmet, which I started wearing, and I like the armor on it. I liked the endurance threshold and the void resistance when I first got it at lower levels. I also use the gloves. I currently haven't gone around to crafting better or gloves, or haven't found any better ones. So I still use this because this helps my melee physical damage. Can't go really wrong with it. It's not great. It does give you a plus 3% critical strike chance of swipe. Now this is base critical strike, so it's not that percentage. So every ability has an innate 5% chance to crit. This ups it to 8%. So this is actually a kind of a big deal. So this is great. And there's also a chest piece that even though it's common, it hasn't dropped for me. But if you can get the 3-piece bonus early on, this is huge, because take a look at that 3-set bonus, plus 30 strength. Plus 30 strength is a ton of strength. And the stats on that chest piece are actually really good. You can Google it. I don't have it right here, but they're really quite good, and it's a great little set if you are lucky enough to get all the pieces. Now, another item that you can get real low level is called the Claw. This is a great amulet. Main thing here is it's going to help you maximize your summoned wolves until you unlock the relative node later on in your leveling. So the plus 8 physical damage for minions is not bad actually at all. But we also really love that extra companion. I do want to point out, I just found there's a higher version of this at level 58 that increases your resistances a bunch, ups the melee physical damage for minions, and also gives you a little extra health. So this is just straight up a better version with better buffs and better defenses. So you could even get this if you get lucky later on. Now, some other pieces that are really, really good. I loved Orzil's Pride. This seems pretty common too and drops real low level. Gives you a ton of armor, mana, and remember, we have issues of mana in this build. Plus 14 strength, which is great. Some lightning resist, and it increases your mana regeneration per 3% uncapped lightning resistance. So it helps you get that mana back even more. So if you had this, the Stormbreaker that gives you resistance, for example, and also Avarice, just these 3 uniques can get the lightning resistance quite a bit up there and helps with the resistances, and they're not very hard to get. And then another kind of item worth mentioning that's also very low level, I like Keeper's Gloves. I didn't wear them that long, but they give you really nice poison resistance for you and your minions. And I love the 10% chance to summon Swarm of Bees, so it's even more minions. I love minions, so this is a fun one to have potentially as well. Now, as far as gear that I have built up, again, this is a new character. It's not min-maxed, but I was able to get Arthur's Legacy. This is huge. This, I don't know if it's best in slot, but it's up there because it gives you +1 maximum companions. So it gets you another wolf, which is great. I really like that. And also increases your melee attack speed by 24%, which is great. And it gives you some strength and armor. But mainly that +1 max companion is invaluable. Now, my amulet isn't perfect by any means. I've had to custom create items to get my resistances up, because you will notice at higher levels you're gonna die to magical attacks if you don't gear up on this. So if you look here, I have capped fire resistance, poison, necrotic, almost capped void. My physical is still my weakest right now, and I have really good lightning, decent cold. So I am quite tanky overall, but I've had to work around it. So I want to replace this because I'm not a dodge build. But notice I also tried to make sure I had minion damage wherever I can here. This custom chest piece I love because it ups my armor and the armor for my minions, which is great. Strength and dual resist. This is a really nice setup. For shields, the main reason I like this, again, it gives me lightning and poison resistance. Ups my armor, which is nice. It actually increases your melee physical damage by 50% or 53% on this version, which I don't see this on very many shields. So I found this really, really nice to compensate for the fact that you're using a one-hander. And speaking of one-handers, the main reason I have this build is that unique effect, well, not unique, that purple effect, 161% increased minion melee damage. Remember, this build is all about minion damage. So whatever weapon, if you can get this effect on it, get it. Obviously, if you can get bonuses to pets for damage or anything else, awesome. This is a decent weapon. The way I built it, mainly you'll notice it's buffing my damage, which is secondary, but that 161% melee damage is huge. Now next, I don't have a great belt right now. I'm still using Pebble's Bite Mark Sash. This is int-based. This isn't amazing. It's for necromancers normally, but it has minion damage, it has fire resistance and base fire damage to minions. It's good if you have nothing better. The rings, again, I haven't been lucky with them. So I have this ring here that has some decent buffs to minion damage, and I just haven't built this out yet at this point. I have Ribbons of Blood, which again is nice for helping increase the leech and damage of your pets, and also make it so that they cannot be crit. So that fact right there is pretty much worth its price of entry. So if they're not getting crit, it's way less likely they get 1 or 2 shot. So this helps with their survivability a ton. And then my boots are kind of trash, to be honest with you. They have some vitality and strength, some base health. I just haven't got anything better yet. 20% elemental resistance is bad. So there's just nothing fancy here, but you can never go wrong with strength. You can never go wrong with resistances. Same with the relic. You'll notice this buffs companions on numerous fronts and increases my resistances. So that's the main thing here. Finding idols, let's take a look at that. You'll notice I'm mainly stacking increases to physical damage and minion physical damage. That's going to be a big thing here. Make sure that you get good rolls on that. Now, this right here is great too. The +2% minion melee critical strike chance. Again, that's base chance. So as a reminder, they will start with 5% on all their attacks. This will up it to 7. If you can stack that a couple times, that could be amazing. I just haven't got it. So most of mine will have the offense. You'll notice here I upped my, I got some vitality and void resistance, because again, you got to get that void resistance up. Otherwise, it's either elemental damage, some sort of resistance, or mainly stacking physical damage for me and my pets. So that's the main combo here. And here are the kind of stats. The main thing you probably want to look at is my pets. You'll notice that I have a plus 542% increased minion melee damage. That's for just melee. And don't forget, you have all these buffs here. Minion critical strike multiplier +2 to 1. And on top of all this, this is before any of the procs. So before the house, before their unique buffs from their trees. So really, if you could see their individual stats, They're absolutely bonkers. Don't forget this increased minion damage. This stacks, of course, with the minion melee damage. So just right here, we're talking about like a over 800% damage increase. And it gets higher and higher. So really, really tanky the way this is built. You can just jump around and clear pretty much all the content through level 75. I haven't run into any walls yet, and as you notice, my gear is by no means optimized. It's only gonna get better. Alright guys, I really hope you enjoyed Ranulf, my level 75 Beastmaster. If you like this guide, make sure to like and subscribe. And the most helpful thing you can do is let me know your comments below. Love to hear what you like about the guide, what you don't like about the guide. If you try it out, let me know how it works out for you, and would love to hear any feedbacks and tips, as I am still relatively new in this game as well. So that being said, thank you so much for the support, guys, and I will go ahead and see you in the next video.